New York just quietly changed the rules, and most drivers have absolutely no idea it happened. Starting March 2026, the state has tightened its point system in a way that hits older, experienced drivers the hardest. You could receive just 2 specific moving violations, the kind that used to feel minor, and find yourself facing a full license suspension. We're not talking about reckless driving or DUIs. We're talking about everyday situations, following too closely, improper lane changes, or rolling through a stop sign. Here's what makes this dangerous. New York's driver violation point system now accelerates suspension triggers faster than before. Accumulate 11 points within 18 months and your license is gone. But certain ticket combinations under the new March 2026 guidelines can push you past that threshold with shocking speed. The DMV won't call you. Nobody sends a warning letter. One morning you're a legal driver, the next you're not. If you've had even 1 ticket in the last year and a half, you need to watch every single minute of this video. Let's start from the very beginning, because if you're a driver in New York, especially someone who's been behind the wheel for decades, what's happening right now in March 2026 deserves your complete and undivided attention. This isn't fear-mongering. This isn't clickbait. These are real regulatory changes happening inside the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, and they are already affecting real people who had no idea they were even close to losing their license. So let's talk about how this point system actually works, because most drivers, even smart, careful ones, have never actually sat down and read through what the DMV considers a violation and exactly how many points each one carries. And that gap in knowledge is exactly what's costing people their driving privileges right now. New York operates on what's called the driver violation point system. Every time you receive a moving violation conviction in the state of New York, points get added to your driving record. The scale runs from 2 points on the low end all the way up to 11 points for a single offense. And here's the number you need to burn into your memory right now. 11 points accumulated within any 18-month period is the threshold that triggers an automatic license suspension. 11 points. That sounds like a lot until you actually look at what carries how many points, and then suddenly it starts feeling very, very close. Let's walk through this carefully, because the numbers will genuinely surprise you. Speeding is one of the most common violations, and the points vary based on how fast you were going over the limit. If you were driving between 1 and 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, that's 3 points. Between 11 and 20 miles over the limit bumps you up to 4 points. 21 to 30 miles over the limit is 6 points. 31 to 40 miles over is 8 points. And if you were going more than 40 miles per hour above the posted speed limit, that single ticket alone is 11 points, meaning 1 ticket, 1 stop, 1 bad decision, and your license is immediately on the line for suspension. But here's where it gets even more serious for the average careful driver who never considers themselves a reckless person. Reckless driving in New York carries 5 points. Following another vehicle too closely, something millions of drivers do every single day on the highway without even thinking about it, carries 4 points. Failure to yield the right-of-way is 3 points. Unsafe lane changing is 3 points. Passing a stopped school bus is 5 points. Failing to stop for a red light or running through a stop sign is 3 points each. And improper cell phone use while driving, which is one of the most common tickets being issued right now across all 5 boroughs and upstate counties, carries 5 points per offense. Now, take a moment and do that math in your head. Say you got a ticket last summer for speeding 11 miles over the limit. That's 4 points. Then a few months later, you were on your phone at a red light, not moving, but technically in a travel lane, and an officer issued you a distracted driving citation. That's 5 more points. You're now sitting at 9 points. 1 more average ticket, a failure to yield, a rolling stop, an unsafe lane change, and you have crossed that 11-point threshold. Your license is now in suspension territory. And this entire sequence could have happened across just 2 or 3 completely ordinary driving situations that you barely even remembered by the time the notices started arriving. This is the reality that the March 2026 updates have made even more urgent because New York has been actively increasing enforcement efforts in tandem with updated internal processing guidelines at the DMV. What that means in plain language is that tickets which used to take weeks to process and appear on your record are now being logged much faster. The window between getting a ticket and having those points reflect on your active driving record has shortened considerably. So the 18-month clock on your point accumulation is being tracked more precisely and more aggressively than it ever has been before. And there's another layer to this that most people don't realize exists at all. Even before you hit that 11-point suspension threshold, New York has a separate financial penalty program called the Driver Responsibility Assessment. This kicks in the moment you accumulate 6 or more points within 18 months, not 11, 6. Once you hit 6 points, the DMV automatically bills you an annual assessment fee of $100 per year for 3 years. Then, for every additional point beyond 6, you owe an extra $25 per year on top of that, also for 3 years. This is separate from whatever fine you already paid for the ticket itself. People are getting hit with these bills and having absolutely no idea where they came from or why, because nobody tells you about this when you're standing at the side of the road signing your ticket. Now let's talk specifically about what has changed with the March 2026 updates, because this is the part of the conversation that is most relevant to your situation right now as a New York driver. The state has been quietly implementing stricter enforcement guidelines around habitual violations, meaning the DMV now has more sophisticated internal systems for flagging drivers who show patterns of repeated lower point violations. In the past, if you had a consistent pattern of 2- and 3-point tickets that individually seemed minor, those might have moved through the system with less scrutiny. Under the updated 2026 guidelines, that pattern now triggers additional review, and in some cases, the DMV has the authority to schedule a hearing or impose a suspension even before you technically hit 11 points if your record shows what they classify as a persistent pattern of unsafe driving behavior. This is a significant shift. It moves the goalposts in a way that experienced drivers, people who have been driving for 30, 40, 50 years and who think of themselves as safe because they've never had a major accident, need to understand. Because those small tickets you've collected over the years, the ones you paid and forgot about, may now be working against you in ways that the old system never would have flagged. Let's also talk about out-of-state tickets, because this is one of the most misunderstood areas of New York driving law. Many New York drivers believe that if they get a ticket in another state, say New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, or Florida, it simply doesn't count against their New York license. That belief is dangerously wrong. New York is a member of the Driver License Compact, an agreement between states to share traffic violation information. If you receive a moving violation in most other states and you are a licensed New York driver, that conviction gets reported back to the New York DMV, and points are assessed as if the violation occurred in New York. So that speeding ticket you got driving through Pennsylvania on your way to visit family last Thanksgiving, that may already be sitting on your New York record adding to your point total right now. Here's something else that catches people completely off guard. The 18-month window that determines your point accumulation is not calculated from the date you received the ticket. It is calculated from the date of conviction. If you fight a ticket in traffic court, which is absolutely your right and often a smart move, the court process can take several months. The conviction date, if you are found guilty, may come long after the original incident. This means the 18-month clock doesn't start until that conviction date, which can actually work in your favor sometimes. But it also means that the DMV's 18-month window may extend further into the future than you were expecting, keeping older violations active on your record for longer. For drivers who are 65 and older specifically, there's a particularly important reason why all of this deserves extra attention. Insurance companies in New York use your DMV record to calculate your premium, and they often pull updated reports at renewal time. A suspension, even a temporary one that gets resolved quickly, can cause your insurance provider to classify you as a high-risk driver. That classification doesn't just raise your rate temporarily. For seniors on fixed incomes, a jump in car insurance premiums of $200, $300, or even $500 per year can be genuinely financially damaging. And for some providers, a suspension is grounds for non-renewal of your policy entirely, which means you'd be shopping for new coverage with a tarnished record, paying significantly more at exactly the stage of life when every dollar counts. So, what do you actually do with all of this information? The very first step, and this is something you should do today, not next week, not after this video, is pull your current New York DMV driving record. You can do this online through the official New York DMV website, and it costs a small fee, but it is absolutely worth every cent. You need to know exactly where you stand right now, how many points are currently on your record, when were those points assessed, are there any convictions listed that you don't recognize or don't remember. Getting that record in front of you is the foundation of everything else. If you find that you're sitting at 6, 7, 8 points or higher, you need to take immediate action. New York offers an approved point and insurance reduction program, commonly called PIRP, which is a defensive driving course that, upon completion, removes up to 4 points from your driving record. It won't erase the violations themselves, but it reduces the active point total, which can mean the difference between keeping your license and losing it. These courses are now widely available online, they can be completed from home, and they satisfy the DMV's requirements fully. The bottom line in all of this is straightforward. New York's updated 2026 driving rules have made the path to license suspension shorter and faster than most drivers realize. The system is not designed to give you a warning before it acts. It is designed to track, accumulate, and respond. And the only person who is going to protect your driving independence, your freedom, and your access to everything that a driver's license makes possible in your daily life is you. So know your record, understand the numbers, take the course if you need to, and stay ahead of a system that is moving faster than ever before.